Hey guys, my name is Adriana and I run BSSM School Planting for Steve and Ruth Moore. And I have some incredible friends joining me today on this call. We just kind of wanted to share a little bit of insight of what it's like to run different schools around the world. And so I've got some great friends here, Jay and Aaron and Jim and Catherine. And they're just going to be sharing with us what it looks like to run their school and just even the differences. And so Jay and Aaron, how about you guys introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from and all of that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jay. This is Aaron. We run Convergent School of Ministry in Amityville, New York, which is on Long Island, about 15 miles outside of the city. We've been doing this for 2 years now. We're going into we just started our second year a few weeks ago. And we are a pretty small school. We have 5 students right now, 3 second years and 2 first years, and it's been awesome. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's been amazing. And I don't know what else you want to talk a little bit? Because I've talked a lot now.
Yeah, like you said, this is our second year. So last year was our big launch year. And so we started off right from the ground with 8 students. Mm-hmm. And then this year, because of COVID and everything, we ended up only getting 5 students this year. But it's been great because it means we're able to be extra intentional with those students. We're extra, working through things with them. And it's great. It's been great.
That's amazing. Cool. And then Jim and Catherine. So sorry.
It begins.
All right. That's our entire basis of experience. It makes sense that it would happen now too.
Yeah.
We always get mixed up. So I'm Jim. This is my beautiful wife, Catherine. We run School of Revival in Medowie, Australia. Medowie is just outside of Newcastle, which is like 2.5 hours outside of Sydney. So we have 10 students. We're about to finish our first year of school, which is wild. We're like 4 weeks off or something, 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So anything else that I missed in that? No?
I could talk all day about it, but we should probably get back to
questions. Yeah.
Yep. So, Jay and Aaron have 2 little ones at home, so Aaron will be popping off and on and helping out with or taking care of the kids, so that's what's going on if you see her popping in and out. They're gorgeous little boys. But I love that. Well, there's a couple of things that I love about this call already. I did school with both of you guys, with both couples. And then I just love that one, you guys are set in New York, and then Jim and Catherine are in Australia. And so there's just so much of a difference already between what we do here at Bethel and then what you guys do where you guys are at. And so I just actually, can you, this isn't a question that I had sent to you guys, but now that I'm thinking about this, can you share a little bit of like the adjustment phase between coming from, leaving Bethel, because you guys were both here for a few years. Catherine is already laughing because it's not easy to change and adjust from here to there, and to where you guys were at. So whichever one of you guys want to start, go for it. Honestly, guys, I'll probably cut this video up and just kind of see what happens. So
sure.
I'm not sure about anything.
Do you guys want to go? I think probably most of our conversations over the last year have been like talking about this. So go for it, guys.
So Jim and I met in school in BSSM. So when we came home after 3rd year, I moved to a town that I'd only visited before, right before we got married. And Jim's been in this town for how many years, do you think?
I don't know, like 18. No, something like that.
Yeah, like a really long time. So I moved into like a pretty small community that has been established for a really long time, and I was the new weird Bethel person that got married in pretty much an elopement. So it was really interesting. It was kind of like starting reading a book series halfway through the series and just catching up. But it was really beautiful to to be welcomed into an existing community, and that was really powerful. So we spent really the last 3 years now, we've been back almost, just really coming back. And not only did I have to build relationships pretty much from scratch, but Jim also, we joke about calling it like he had to unfreeze his relationships, because we were gone for so long. Well, he was gone for so long that people's lives kept going. So we had to work really, really hard to not only restore those relationships and rebuild connections, but also to show that we're invested in the community and we're not just swanning in and wanting to change everything and make everything like Bethel and turn everything into a mega church, because that's not what this community is about, obviously. And they have their own heart, they have their own vision, they have their own goals for what's important to them. So we worked really hard to be really authentic, be really honest about our journey, and to serve the church no matter what it cost us.
Yeah, and I think what we found is your school kind of lives or dies based on your relationship and connection with churches. And it was really important to us that we weren't trying to build BSSM. We were trying to build the school that was in the heart of the church that we're partnering with. So we were wanting to build based on their values, but it meant that at the same time we were trying to grow and develop that church so that they had values and a culture that could sustain a supernatural school of ministry. So.
And we were really careful with our language, because people would ask us what we wanted our school to look like. And it's really important to us, like, we're building a school for the church and for God, not for us. So there are a lot of things that we would have honestly done very differently. But that's not why we're here. That's not why God has called us here. It's not our school. We've been called to serve the bride of Christ and basically like help her have a baby in a way, like help her, give birth to something that looks like her, that feels like her, that is a part of what's already existing in the family. But also we get the privilege of releasing and using our experiences and our understandings and the impartations we received at BSSM basically to help create that, but in serving the church, not forcing them to be something that they're not, or creating something that's unsustainable for them to manage.
That's good. That's really good. Wow.
We should have gone first.
Whatever.
Well, ditto everything she said.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we realized in we took like a year and a half while we were still in Reading, like planning and prepping, and we moved out with the team, so like prepping with them too, of what to expect and creating culture amongst our leaders and relationship with each other and stuff like that. And one of the things that I think we realized we wish we had done was to really get to know the needs and the culture of where we were going, instead of thinking and expecting that, like, well, we're just going to bring that wherever we go. And like, there's a reality and a truth to that you do carry your culture. Like, we definitely carry a lot of Bethel's culture and stuff like that, but you're almost doing like the people that you're trying to serve a disservice by just expecting them to catch it and run with it.
Yeah.
And so we realized pretty early on into like a month or two before we even launched last year, like, hey, we actually have to, this can't look like Bethel in Redding, California. This needs to look like, Convergence in Amityville, New York. Yeah. Like, we have to actually let us and let our students and let our leaders have the freedom to make our culture at the same time. Like, pick the things that we definitely are the non-negotiables we're going to run with and take with us from our experience there, but at the same time having the freedom to risk and figure out what it needs to look like for us at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's hard, especially like you take for granted the fact that like Bill and Chris and all these guys have spent the last 20 something years cultivating this thing, and we're coming in its like prime, and like you hear Chris talk about stories from '98 and stuff about how hard it was, and you're like, I mean, sure, okay. And then you're doing it, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, giving yourselves even the grace to not be perfect was probably one of the biggest things that we realized we needed to do for ourselves and our leaders and our students.
Yeah. Just even like Jay said, we had to really kind of pick okay, what do we carry? What is the culture that we naturally already carry? Not what does Bethel carry? What do we carry well? Yeah. What do we carry a passion for? What do we carry anointing for individually as a team? What do we bring to the team and everything? And so we would have these team meetings and prep and team retreats and everything, where we were just really, really intentional to go after that and ask God, what's your heart for this school? We want to follow that first and foremost. And so we need you to show us what you've given us to carry and what you want us to release to this region, city, state, the East Coast, all of that. And so that's been interesting too, because a lot of what we carry is naturally not what is the norm here. So when it comes to, for instance, us and our team, we're very, very passionate about emotional health. That's not the norm. Mental health is pretty normal here, but emotional health, you bring that up in the church and nobody has a clue what you're talking about. And it's all very, very spiritually bypassed. That's a whole lot of spiritual.
I've got dad wounds, but God's a good dad.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, you're bringing in these students that it's more than just a once a week getting together with you at church for 2 hours kind of thing. It's actually a lot more intentional. We're getting together multiple times a week. We've got our tribe, which is kind of like revival group. So that goes even deeper as well. And then, we're getting together with them over coffee and meetings and mentoring and all of that stuff. So we're able to go a lot deeper and actually bring them into our culture and what we carry and draw them in. And then they're starting to realize their lives, are starting to change and shift because they're starting to catch on to the culture.
Yeah.
I think too, go along with just really quick what Katie was saying too. If you're going to plant the school, make sure you have a heart for the church.
Yeah.
Because you're not actually looking to. That was something I think we had to pick up on too, that we weren't carrying necessarily when we first dreamt of the school. Is you're not building something for the sake of a school. You're really building something to build up the church and equip the church and have her step into identity and call and stuff. So build relationships with local pastors and local communities, and go out of your way to do that. It'll do you a big service later on.
I love that. I was just thinking, as you guys are talking, we talk a lot about how the church is a body and we all play our different parts, but it's the same thing with schools, is you guys each look very different from each other, but are all super, super important to the kingdom and just building and developing your region. And so I love, what you guys were just saying about it's not your school, it's the Lord's school, and you're building for your community and what your community needs and stuff like that. So that's amazing. Thank you. I just heard my speaker and it likes to talk in the middle of conferences and calls. So I'm going to turn it off right now before it starts yelling at me. When we're at a stopping point.
When I was working from home and doing counseling, there was a couple of times where I was having this, the moment where everything comes to a head in a counseling session and you're here's my chance, here we go. And Siri would always talk.
Sorry, can't hear you.
I don't know what that means. Yeah.
I'm having trouble with the connection right now.
Awesome.
It will not turn off now. That's great. Okay.
It's alive.
It's a sign. Listen to it.
It's always, I'm trying to connect is what she always says in the middle of calls. And she's like, I'm sorry.
I guess we all are in calls,
She's really trying.
We're all looking for connection.
Yeah, especially nowadays, right?
Zoom.
Connect with people. I know. Okay, well, hopefully She'll keep it down. Okay, here we go. So you guys both started your schools this year, and pandemic. So what has it looked like to pivot for you guys, for both of you this year? I mean, obviously, pretty much everybody's been online and doing all of the things, but you know, how has that affected even your connection with your team, your leadership team, your staff, and your students and things like that?
Yeah. You want us to go first this time?
Yeah, I think you had to pivot more.
You're in New York, so that's like you get to talk about that first.
Oh, okay. So as far as like the practical side of things, we actually had a lot of things in place already because we had to prepare for like blizzards and snowstorms. So we already had like video stuff in place, and we use a platform called Band that lets us broadcast to like right on the platform, so our students already knew, like we had communicated if stuff goes down, like with snow, because we're not prophetic enough to anticipate a pandemic, that like this is where we're going to go. So I was actually in Australia visiting these guys when everything hit the fan. So
That was fun.
that was an adjustment because we were trying to like coordinate things and the time difference and all this stuff. So we went online immediately.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like March 12th or something like that. I feel like
end of February maybe.
As soon as, because we're so close to the city, like when their cases started rising, we immediately said, hey, we're going online. We have, most of our students were older women. Mm-hmm. So they were pretty nervous. So we just said, for everyone's peace, let's just go online. And for the first while, it was hard for us as leaders, I think, to feel like we were giving a quality experience.
Yeah.
Just because there's no proximity, you're not really.
To a screen.
Yeah, you're talking to a screen. We tried doing live worship for a little while, and it just was not working at all. So we ended up switching over to like showing like some Bethel worship sets and stuff like that, and like we struggled for a while. We were like, God, this is awful, and people paid for this. So and then we actually got on with you guys at school planning and got to sit in and listen to Richard talk for a while about just being intentional to give a really good experience, and that was really, really helpful for us.
Really good.
Even down to just doing the practical stuff of like we started doing the hand stuff and really encouraging our students keep participating and doing
just like that.
Yeah, just like that. Keep participating, and then we just started communicating that to our leaders a lot of like, hey, we need to communicate that this is still an awesome experience, and that has to start with us.
Yep.
And it ended up being awesome.
Yeah, and it requires even more intentionality.
Yeah.
So like we're not seeing each other 2, 3 or more times a week. So what can we do to be really intentional? That looks like, calling each other up or FaceTiming or, just even shooting out a text message. If you're having a busy day, I mean, even a text message is better than nothing, but just being more intentional to be connected as a school and to help the students feel like they can still pull from us. They can still ask questions. They can still, call on us if they need us, or whether it's about homework or whether it's about heart stuff, whatever it is, like, let's talk. We're here for you. We're just as available. We're actually probably more available for you now. And it was an interesting transition, but I think we were able to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it still ended up being really good. And one of the things we realized that we could do to try to get creative and get outside the box was it actually gave us an outlet to bring in people to speak that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise, just because, proximity. So we were able to get like Jim came. We were able to get, I don't know if you guys know Brian Blount to come in and speak, and just a couple of other like speakers that, we would have had to fly in and cover all those costs and stuff. We were able to get in and give them a lot of FaceTime and one-on-one time. And then this year we've actually been able to be in person. So we still have stuff in place if we have to go digital again, but or virtual again. But we've been able to be in person, and it's been nice. So now it's your turn.
Yeah, I think we've had a bit of a, like, COVID's looked different here.
Mhm.
And the restrictions and requirements have been a bit different here. Like obviously we had Jay out here at was that the end of March as things were kicking off. Like Jay preached in our second last church service. He preached in our last staff meeting. He preached in our last in-person school meeting, like
Crazy.
Because everything kicked off as he left and everything went to online. For about 10 weeks, we were online after that, maybe like 12 weeks. And it was initially quite a challenge. We did do the live worship. Our worship pastor, he managed to kind of get it working using some technology, and he bought a bunch of equipment to kind of make it work for him. And that ended up working and being a pretty good element of it. We also were able to have some speakers that we never would have been able to get otherwise. Like we reached out to Ben Fitzgerald because we're like, you're stuck in Australia, you're probably bored, do you want to speak at a school?
He was bored, he did talk to us.
Yeah, it was awesome. And yeah, just a bunch of other people that it would have been, like Jay was saying, would have been really tricky to get otherwise. But that was just kind of one of the gifts of the season, was that we got to have some incredible people come and speak into our students. Then the Richard Gordon talk again was a really perspective shifting moment for us. It really helped us be like, oh, we need to build anticipation. Like we need to have expectations of how God can use this thing. And the practical things of like trying to get everyone to talk in the first 10 minutes of a call and like waving hands and stuff, that really shifted things for us. There's still definitely some students that were hating it the whole way through. But unfortunately, when you kind of decide you're going to get nothing out of something, there's not much that can be done. Like you can't shift that perspective for someone if they've chosen, I'm not going to get anything out of this. So unfortunately, we did have a couple students that had a really tough time with that term. But yeah, not much we could do. Then when we've gone back to in person, we still have some restrictions. So we've got restrictions in terms of how many people can be in the building. We have to have like 1.5 meters distance from each other, which is pretty tricky because we meet in a small room. But we just do our best with that. The restriction that has been the hardest is we're not allowed to have singing, because there's been a few outbreaks that have been traced to choirs, and so the government have said we don't want you to be singing, and our church is part of the Baptist denomination, and the Baptist Union have said we don't want singing, so we're just choosing to honor the denomination and the government as much as we hate it. Like worship has been a really important part of our school. Like it's a foundation of any supernatural school. So to have to learn to worship in a way that isn't through singing has been challenging, because I think there's something about congregational worship where it's really safe and it's really easy, and it's almost like being spoon-fed. Like I think, unfortunately, I'm not gonna. This is a pet.
I was like, well,
I'm backing off.
Yeah.
I will just say, I think that congregational worship has become somewhat of a sacred cow for the church. That it has become like entering the presence is synonymous with congregational worship, and that is not the only way to spend time in his presence. And I think that this has been an opportunity for the church to kind of kill that sacred cow and learn to approach the throne not just through congregational worship but through personal intimacy. Anyway, so that's been good for our students to have to learn that.
So pastorally, that has been really difficult for us, because previously when people would show up at school, and you guys would know this from BSSM, like you have this beautiful, almost like buffer of worship where you can come in like really cross at your housemates, really devastated about something or other and worried that you're not going to be able to go on missions. And then you've got some brilliant person or a bunch of brilliant people up on the stage that just lead you into this really peaceful encounter with God. And through that experience, we get a lot out of it. We're really worship is about giving to God, not about us receiving. particularly. So it took us a really long time to figure out how we could support our students to transition from their normal everyday lives, because we're part-time school. So they're coming in about to have dinner and then do school after work, after taking care of their kids, whatever they've been doing all day, and teach, like, kind of scaffold in how they could negotiate entry into God's presence, because not everyone knows how to do that during the day. Not everyone knows how to do that amongst their, like, real life. And that was super difficult for us. And we tried so many different things. And what we realized was that people just really needed connection. So we just pivoted a whole lot of our stuff. If there was literally anything that could be discussed at all during the night, if there were like group discussion possibilities, we would do it, because that helps people be able to be grounded, to feel centered, to feel connected, and just really helps them, I guess, basically calm down and be present and connect in and transition their thoughts of worry and concern to being mindful of God's presence and the people around them. So I don't know if that's helpful for someone out there, but that took us a really long time to figure out.
Yeah.
I honestly hadn't even thought about like that element of worship, and because I think for a while they were dancing around that idea of no singing here in California, but it's California and we do whatever we want. And so, and so, yeah, it's true. We do use that time, especially in school. And I mean, I did a part-time school before coming to BSSM, and it was right after dinner or right around dinner time. And so it was kind of like that buffer time between my day and, okay, now I'm going to go into like Jesus mode, school mode or whatever. And so, yeah, that's very interesting. That's not something that I've thought of. And you're right, Jay, worship online is terrible. There's like no good way to really do it unless you do the thing where you buy a ton of equipment, which a lot of people just can't afford. A lot of schools, churches can't afford this crazy equipment that it requires to make it work. And so
when I found out that Dan had figured out how to do it, I got so jealous.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't buy the equipment. Like, Dan, our worship pastor, just went and bought it himself because he was like, I'm going to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
He got stubborn.
Yeah.
Just as a challenge.
Yeah. So, I mean, what have you guys, so you guys were, Catherine, you were just talking about how you guys did, discussion. Have you guys done anything else in lieu of worship or anything like that?
Yeah, we've done lots of, like we've done encounters, we've done like just times of just sitting and focusing on his presence. And what was funny was a lot of it didn't work initially. And now some of the stuff that didn't work initially is working. And I don't fully know what the shift is, but yeah.
I think people were grieving that things had changed. Like, so much of our life had changed. I think it was difficult honestly, it was just difficult for them to transition to Dan comes in, we know Dan, we love Dan, he sings, we sing, it's a happy time, hooray, into, okay, now Catherine is leading us in a practicing the presence exercise, and I'm kind of mad about this, and I'm having difficulty engaging in God's presence because I'm mad at her.
Yeah, I think one of the other big shifts was we had the church's worship pastor come in, and we had been saying this similar stuff to what I was saying to you before of like, this is an opportunity for us. Like, it's not on the table for us to go back worshiping as long as the Baptist Union is saying for us not to. Like, it's not on the table. We will choose honor no matter what, no matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter what we have to sacrifice to choose honor, we will choose honor. So that's not on the table. It's a non-negotiable. But we had our worship pastor of our church come in and kind of share pretty much exactly what we were saying of like, this is an opportunity for us to learn to worship in a different way. Like, whether the government says whatever, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't want to miss out on this invitation. We don't want to miss out on this opportunity. And I don't know, it's just one of those annoying things that sometimes you can say a thing 100 times and someone else comes and says it and the students are like, oh.
It's like a foreshadowing of parenting, I think.
Yep.
Like mom and dad can say it over and over and over, and then like a cool person comes in, someone else's dad, and they're like, whoa, I just had an epiphany, and we're like, that's so good.
Yeah.
I'm really glad. Yay, God.
I mean, we definitely had that moment when Jay came and spoke in our school as well, where the students were like, I've just understood this because Jay said it. And we're like, said that to you 10 times already. Like, but cool. Glad for you.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Is just like the parents, and you say it a million times, and then somebody else cool comes along, and you're like, okay, great, glad you got it, but I've been saying that. Jay, what about you guys? Have you guys done anything different for worship or anything like that?
We just started to really try to encourage like them to bring their worship to school. So meaning like the encounters that they were having on their own, like we would make space before class for them to share and talk about it and say like, you know, what is, when you are driving on your way to work, what is the Lord doing? What is he saying? What's he talking to you? We try to fill a lot of that time with testimony too, like make a lot of space for testimony. So I think this second week we went into lockdown, we basically turned the first 10 minutes of worship time into just straight testimony. And oftentimes it turned into a half hour of, you know, you're in this school and you're learning all this stuff and all this stuff's happening, but is there fruit that's coming from it? And how do we learn to share that, you know, with people? And if you can't share that in school with the ones that you're going through school with, then it's going to be really hard to share that outside. So we started doing that stuff. And we've got a guy on our team named Levi, who's like he's an encounter fiend, if you can call someone
Encounter
that.
fanatic. Yeah.
So he's led a lot of encounters, but we do still try to do worship together as much as we can, which now is much easier than it was. But we did run into kind of the same thing you guys ran into with. It was just like, yeah, this is great that we're listening to this set that happened 2 years ago, but this doesn't feel personal. And well, I know the microphone doesn't work really great, but can you just try it anyway? And we're like, no, you just think that you need this to encounter God, and you don't need this to encounter God. Which is what we kind of felt like the Lord was like the silver lining for our school too. When everything first happened, was we felt like the Lord was inviting our students into killing their consumerism. And we just started like hammering that, like, hey, if you think you need things to get before the presence, like, then you're actually saying that Jesus isn't enough, and that's not true. And so we just started going after that hard with them, and it came up with other things outside of just worship. But that was one of the feedbacks we got at the end of the year too, was that they started to step way more into confidence with their relationship with Jesus. So that was fun.
I love that. And I think a lot of it too is people use worship as their own healing balm of like you were talking about, Catherine, you know, you're angry at your housemate, and so you come and you do worship, and it's like, hey, that's not actually, like, worship isn't there to serve you and it make you better. I mean, miracles happen in the presence. That is not negotiable. That's not deniable. You know, Jesus does things, but that worship time is for him, and it's not a time to manipulate the Lord. You know, Bill shares this story about, I think, when Brian was super sick when he was younger, and how he was worshiping at the foot of his bed, and the Lord convicted him of that because he was using worship to convince the Lord to heal Brian. And Bill was like, oh man, like the revelation was like, that's not actually what worship is. And a lot of us do that. I mean, I'm guilty of doing that sometimes, you know? And I think that this season has broken a lot of that stuff off of us, or at the very least revealed those kind of tendencies and the way that we use the presence and the Lord and things like that. And so it's almost like you guys had like a super accelerated, because I'm thinking you have to learn how to strengthen yourself in the Lord in this season. And that's usually something we do at the end of the school year. And so it's like a compressed, you know, super accelerated school year of getting your students going and like learning how to do these things right off the bat without even being able to seriously use you guys as school leaders as a crutch, because that's a real thing too, you know. And with the distance thing, it's kind of like, okay, I've got to figure this out myself. and figuring out community yourself and everything like that. So it's been such an interesting season, and Jesus is doing the good things no matter what. Whether it looks like we want it to look like, whether it's our version of good or not, it is still good. And so I want to switch gears a little bit, get off of this COVID stuff. And I know, Jim and Catherine, we've talked probably a million times about how you guys have developed your team before school started, but I'd actually love to hear from Jay and Aaron about what you guys did. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but what did team development look like before starting your school for you guys?
Yeah, do you want to start? Want me to start?
We were very intentional once God had kind of revealed to us, because we were living in Reading and we came back out here for a conference, and while we were here for the conference is when God made it really clear to Jay and I separately that we were going to be moving back to New York and we were going to be in charge of this school,
which we swore we would never do.
Which we swore we would never ever do. And so that was an interesting conversation right there. Has he been telling you anything? Oh, good. Okay, it's the same thing. Oh, crap. So we knew it wasn't going to be immediate. We knew that we had time to adjust and process and everything. And then God was just really kind in giving us time to kind of cultivate and create our team. And so we had a pretty big circle community of friends, and he legitimately highlighted people to us, and we would have conversations and just be like, hey, at some point in the next probably year and a half, we're moving back to New York, and this is what we're going to be doing, and this is the vision and everything, and you do not have to give us an answer now, but we would just love for you to pray into being a part of the team and what your role would be. And this is kind of what we have thought about and prayed about and stuff, but there's freedom, there's grace and everything. So we put it out there, and we ended up coming out here with four people who came with us from Reading, all with like different varying levels of relationship and responsibility and capacity and ability to lead in different areas and everything. And so what we started doing in Reading, while we were still in Reading, is we started meeting weekly.
Friday nights.
On Friday nights, and just getting together, just us, because we were like, hey, if we're going to lead a school, and we also knew that we were coming here to plant a missional community, like a church as well. So we were going to do all the things. And so we were like, if we're gonna lead these things and we're gonna do them, we want to do them well and with excellence. We need to be able to just be in the presence together. We need to be able. So we basically almost had our own little house church, kind of thing, where we would get together every week and we would worship and we would just sit in the presence, and Holy Spirit would fall and we'd let him come and do whatever he wanted, and he would work on our hearts. And then we had other nights where we would be very intentional to go after, what do each of us carry? What do we see on each other? We're calling out the gold in each other. What do we, and like doing different prophetic activations. And we had other nights where we literally would pull up like YouTube videos of like driving through the towns that were in the area, like literal physical. This is the area that we're going to be in. This is to give them like a physical idea, so that they're coming here and they're not expecting, we're not living in Brooklyn, we're not living in Manhattan. We're living on Long Island, and this is what this part of the area looks like. And we'd answer practical questions and stuff. And then we were just intentional too, to have, like, once we actually all got out here and we all did the big move cross country, we've had some really great team retreats, where we've just done a lot of even just intentional inner healing stuff with our team, because we can't give away what we don't already receive, what we aren't already carrying. And so we want to make sure that us and our team are, healed and whole and able to work through our stuff, so that we can help other people work through their stuff, So that's been really good, and it's been a lot of fun. Did I miss anything?
No, yeah, I mean, I think the thing we tried to build first and foremost was a lot of trust.
Yeah.
because we had relationship with a lot of we had relationship with all of the people that we invited, but they didn't necessarily have a relationship with each other. So we tried to build a lot of trust between them through those nights, through having experience together, prophesying over each other, prophesying into what we were doing, casting vision. Another thing that we did at that point was I was on staff at a church in Reading called The Stirring, and we submitted it to as many of the leaders that we had relationship there as well, and actually invited them to come to those nights and speak into what we were doing and speak into just the team and pray for us and just help us feel covered. Because when you get out there and you start doing the thing, you don't always feel covered. And we felt like it was really important for us as a team to, one, cover each other and to still feel covered and still have connection. So we continue to encourage our team to maintain those connections with our friends in Reading and with people in all the communities that we were a part of. And then once we did get here, we found that we had to just keep reiterating a lot of vision, just keep going after vision, because when you're in it, it's really easy to lose the vision because stuff gets hard.
Yeah.
So a lot of our team nights have been focused a lot on, now have been focused a lot on vision and focused a lot on, hey, remember, we're here to serve these people, not make them conform to who we are. Like, we're here to build something, and when you build something, that takes a lot of work. And also, on the other side of that, give a lot of rest. Like, make sure that you're resting a lot. Making sure that, for us, it's really important whenever we check in with our team, like, hey, what are you doing for fun? What are you doing for rest? And making a lot of space for that, creating space too for them to not have to be perfect. So if you need to take a night off from school, like, do it. If you need to take a week off from school, like, do it. It's more important that you're healthy. So yeah, that's kind of how we've focused on a lot of relationship, a lot of building trust, and a lot of just being, letting them know that this isn't performance, like being safe to process the process that this is of church planning and school planning.
Yeah, I think so we have to read, God's generals in school, and one of my biggest takeaways from God's generals was kind of what you were alluding to at the end there, Jay, was I think as leaders, we think we constantly have to be on and giving, but that's not healthy, and it's not actually good for the people that we're leading. And so to take that time for ourselves and just say, hey, actually, I need tonight off, or, this is not my week, or, this is what's going on, and just taking time to work on your own healing and everything is really important. So I love that you guys focused on that, when you guys do your retreats and things like that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, we like to say that we're a family, we're not a business. So like, if there's not, like, accountability still exists in family, it just looks different.
Right. Yeah. Jim, Catherine, do you guys want to add anything about what you guys do? Yeah.
I think, like, in summary, we spent a lot of time with our senior pastor, and we had lots of conversations with her, lots and lots, because we came back with different language for things than she had, and we needed to make sure that we understood each other really well, and we understood what was possible and what was scary and what was hoped for, because most disagreements come from unmet expectations. And so we had, like, there some key things where we would say, hey, you say you want revival, do you want revival at any cost? So when we're saying that, we're talking about surrender, sanctification, those type of things. I think what she was hearing, and I could be wrong, but she was really concerned about us asking that question, because she heard, don't hurt, like, you want to hurt my people, you're going to tell them that they need to surrender. Because she's so protective of these people, because she's their pastor, because she loves them. And she's not a revival group pastor that has a group of people for a year and you get to meet them 4 times a year. You get to, and obviously as a revival group pastor, You get to see a lot of change and you love those people. But I'm talking about like 20 years. She sees kids like going to school every day. She sees people 4 times a week. She knows everything about them. She knows their parents. She knows their grandparents. So the personal investment and the love and the commitment that she has for these people is so precious to her, and her investment is so high. To have people come in and say, revival's messy, let's see what happens,
That's true.
it's frankly horrifying.
Mess was definitely the word that we had to redefine the most. We're talking about building the school, and we're like, yeah, you need to understand that this is going to be a messy process. Like, the nature of a supernatural school is that people get healed, and the way that people get healed is stuff comes up for them so that you can work through it, and that's a messy process. But she's hearing mess as in like people are getting damaged and getting taken out. So we had to really like work on that relationship. Like, we worked on the relationships with our teams as well, but like honestly, we probably put more work into the relationship with the senior pastor than any other relationship since we've been back here.
And to be honest, I hope this will be helpful at some point. It was really scary, and it was really emotional communicating like that, because it wasn't normal for me. It's not wasn't a natural thing for me. I've grown a lot. But we had to choose to enter into conflict, to choose to enter into processing offense, and really clarifying over and over and over again communication, because we wanted that connection. So we chose her connection, and we committed to that despite how much literal emotional pain and fear that we had about that. And sometimes we would come away from those meetings and I would be crying, not because she was horrible, but because it was hard. It was hard to find a level of understanding. It's hard to articulate. It was hard to fight for a connection with someone that's so important to you, knowing that it could go poorly. So I just want to encourage you, like, if God sends you somewhere to serve, pay any price to live in community. Out of all of the values, I have never thought that through. So like, I think about that a couple of times a day at least, and they're not even the school days where I see people from church. I'm at work and I'm thinking, pay any price to live in community, because that's what we're called to do. And we're called to lay our lives down like Jesus for the church. And obviously that comes with boundaries, and that comes with wisdom and guidance from our mentors and people. But submission to God is really, really important. And serving is really, really important. So if there's things that we can lay down in our lives, like feeling comfortable or wanting to feel right or wanting to feel more prophetic or more on point with God than our senior leaders, like, you got to kill that stuff quick.
So good.
Kill it as soon as possible, and kill it through communication and serving and obedience to the people that God calls you to submit to. Because they're not Bill Johnson. They're not. They're not Bill Johnson. They probably haven't seen what you've seen, but they've seen a lot of other stuff that you haven't seen. You have no idea what they've experienced
and what they've sacrificed.
And how much God honors them. I'm going to start crying. God honors those pastors that he's sending you to serve, and he loves them. He loves them just as much as he loves Bill Johnson. He loves them just as much as he loves you. And it's an honor to serve those people. And the more it costs you, the more capacity you will have to carry what God is pouring out in that community. And we want to be laid down. We want to be clean. We want to have pure hearts and clean hands, because revival is coming. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what type of offensive it's going to be. It's going to be offensive, because it always is. We don't know if God's going to ask us to lie down on the floor after opening a worship night and put our head in a shoebox, because that's what Seymour used to do at Azusa. Like, we don't know what he's going to ask us to do. So as soon as you could submit to that call and serve the church, trust me, it's better. Just do it as soon as you can, just as soon as you get off the plane. I'll stop talking now. But that's really like that's the thing that really set us up for the success and the synergy that our school has with the church is being in submission to the leadership.
Yeah. I love that. That actually makes me think about something that I hear a lot from my students, but then also from school leaders is, a lot of school leaders and people are bringing this new supernatural lifestyle to somewhere that doesn't really understand what that looks like or hasn't really experienced it, or thinks that it's really scary, and like you guys were saying, messy is a different has a different definition than what we think it is, that we think we're saying. And so I love, Catherine, what you were just talking about submission, but I just actually want to ask Jay and Aaron, like, what has that, like, when you've had differences with your leadership, what has it looked like to submit and to serve them and stuff?
Well, our leadership is my dad. So of course we get along all the time.
Right, exactly.
No, yeah, I mean, it's been messy. It's been messy at times. It's been really hard at times.
Yeah.
I have a good relationship. Well, we have a good relationship with my dad and some of the other leaders that are on with us. We're in kind of a unique situation in that our school's not under a church. It's under an equipping ministry. So they actually run like
umbrella.
Yeah, they actually run like kind of like mini schools all over the place. So the vision for the whole ministry is to equip, is to educate, is to do all that sort of stuff. So and we're kind of blessed in that we have a lot of freedom to kind of run with it. But yeah, it's been a lot at times, a lot of tough conversations with my dad. We've had to say, we've had to say, hey, okay, well, we don't think this is the right way to do it, but we honor you and we respect you, and we'll go with what you want. And that is very hard, especially when you're the ones, right, who are there, 2, 3, 4 times a week doing the thing, and you're the ones with the students. But like Catherine was saying, there's something that, like, God rewards those who honor really well. And I think one of the ways that I can say that we've seen the reward is in that there is peace in our school. Like, I think when you honor your leader, whether you agree with them or not, what you're communicating is that you're communicating that we value peace and we value relationship. And the byproduct of that is your students get to walk in peace and they get to walk in relationship. And because we've honored at different points, it's given us open doors to be able to risk in other areas and to be able to, try different things, that because my dad and some of the other leaders know we value their vision and we care about this thing that they've been running with longer than we have. They also then trust us to be able to say, hey, we feel like the Lord's given us this piece of vision for the school. Can we run with it? And we've been able to do that. So honoring opens doors for you. Like, it doesn't close. Anytime you think that if I have to honor my leaders because and in doing so sacrifice the Lord's call, like, that's just not true. That's just not true. Like, God's going to value that, and he's going to take that, and he's going to provide you with opportunity to probably go even deeper than you thought you were going to go with whatever the vision is you think he gave you.
Yeah. There's been a whole lot of brave communication. There's been a lot of, like, moments, Jim Katie now, a whole lot of tension and sitting in tension. And is it worth, either do I let this go, or does this need to be a conversation that we need to have? And part of both the blessing and the curse of doing this with family is that we're family. So we can't get away from each other. So, like, and for the last, like, until we moved into our house here, almost 2 years, we've lived with them. So if there's tension in one area, there's tension in all areas because, you feel it, and we're all a bunch of feelers. We're all a bunch of very strong prophetic feelers and stuff. So when something's off, and if we need to talk, no, I'm just not ready for it yet or whatever. But yeah, there's been a lot of times of tension, and then it's choosing, okay, I can either readjust my expectations, I can make healthier expectations and not put so much pressure on myself, on them, on what's supposed to happen, or we need to have a conversation, and most of the time it ends in, okay, we obviously, the goal is to hear each other's hearts and to be able to understand each other and work through it and come to an agreement. And then rarely, but sometimes there's the occasion where we agree to disagree. And then, okay, so like Jay said, we're gonna choose honor, and that's the route you gotta go. But it's always worth the brave communication to be able to work through it, because that's just it. It's family fights for each other. Mm. And I mean, we can say that about our team and everything, and that's great. But in this instance, it is family. It actually is family too, So even if we didn't see each other at school or at ministry events, we're going to see each other at family dinners and holidays and Sunday get-togethers and whatever. So let's just work through this stuff so that there is no stuff between us. It's always worth it.
And I think that's true whether you're literally leading with family or not. Building family hurts, and it's messy and it's risky and all that, but family, right? Family gets to adopt people in. They get to bring people in, and just do the process. Just go through it. Just do the thing. It's worth it.
Yeah, I love that. It is. It's worth it. Actually, it's kind of funny because my students and I have been talking a lot the last week or so about, they're asking about transitioning and how, a lot of people transition in and out of our culture. And so building relationships. And one of the things I told them was, loving somebody is always worth it. No matter how it ends, loving that person is always going to be worth it. And, just do it really well and do it with honor, like you said. So that's great. I have one last question for you guys that actually I just thought of as just listening to both of you couples talk. But I actually want to hear about the importance of your guys' friendship between the two couples here, because I'm realizing as we're speaking that you guys have been drawing a lot of strength from each other and just really bouncing things off of each other and processing with each other. And so just want to hear a little bit about the importance of finding people that are like-minded and running with you or running for you, or, whatever that looks like.
We would not be doing well if it wasn't for these two, at all. Sorry, I'm going to jump in. I'm not going to give you guys a chance to.
Yeah, I was about to jump in.
Yeah, it was adorable. You both did.
No, I mean, this was a relationship. Jim was actually the first person I met in second year. So Aaron and I did first year in 2011, and then we got married and we moved away and we came back after a few years. I had no intention to go back to BSSM. I was working full time. I was being the supportive husband while Aaron was going to school. And I think 2 months before classes started, God said, "No, you're going." And it was one of the most frustrating, painful seasons of my life. And I met Jim on retreat. Well, no, I met Jim at Chris's house because our revival group pastor got us confused. And it was the first time of many times that we were confused for each other.
Even today.
They started dressing like twins.
But unintentionally, we did not communicate for the first while.
Well, for the first while, yeah.
We started to.
You were like ID cards. You had the same shirt and the same hat.
And the same hat.
People got confused.
Yeah. So I met, but the first meaningful conversation we had was at retreat, and I was a mess at retreat. I was not in a good place, and I think we connected over something stupid like video games or something.
I think it was over Xbox.
Yeah, and that was the first time though that I felt safe in that year, and that just continued for the rest of the year for me, and Jim was that for me for the first few months, and then he met Katie, and Katie came in, and they became a safe place for both of us, and getting to go on that journey with them two and their relationship and getting married and all that. And you think when you leave Bethel that you're set and you have everything you need to succeed, and it's not true. And for us, it's been we have our team here, but and they're amazing, and they are friends and they are family for us. But it's not the same as being able to run with people that are in the same or similar season, have walked through or are walking through the same things. And when you don't have that close, it's really lonely.
Yeah.
And being able to still have these guys be a Zoom call away I can absolutely say without shouting out, has saved us.
Oh yeah.
Has 100% saved us. We need it. And if you're leading, like, it's just not healthy to expect that of your team. It's not going to work. It just makes everything really weird, and boundaries get really blurry. And you need to find people that you can run with, and you don't need that, luckily, because we live in the age of Zoom. You don't need that necessarily within a couple miles of you. Like, if you're intentional, and these guys have, more than us even, been so intentional to stay connected, and
which means the world.
And yeah, I mean, I can't say enough. It's saved us so many times.
Same. Yeah, that Jay and Aaron are two of our dearest, closest friends, and yeah, Jay and Aaron both contributed to getting me through second and third year, and they've just been continuously there for us in the good moments to celebrate with us. We called them the moment that we found out we were pregnant. They were the first people we told. Yeah. So they've been there with us in the moments to celebrate, and in the moments where things have been really hard. I always know if I'm not in a good place that I can get in contact with Jay and he'll make time for me. And it's amazing having someone you can operate on that peer level with, because we walk in leadership. It's who we are. So we find ourselves in positions of leadership wherever we go. It's hard for us to, if we go to a connect group, there's still people looking to us what do you have to say in this setting? So it's just nice having people that you can just be with, that you can understand, that you can get each other's hearts. We have an amazing team, but they don't always understand it if I'm I want to strangle this student. And I can say that to Jay and Aaron, and they know that I want to strangle that student because I love them.
So messed up to say.
But I think that if you're a school leader, you understand that. I think that's a uniquely school leader experience, that you love these people so dearly, and you have sacrificed for them, and you're going to continue to sacrifice for them. And then you see them make dumb choices, and you're like, what are you doing?
That is real, because you'll have meetings with people and you'll be like, don't do the thing. Remember how you talked about that you didn't want to do the thing this year? Don't do the thing. I see you're doing the thing. Oh, you've rationalized it. Oh, you've spiritualized it.
Yeah.
Right.
So having people that understand our hearts fully, that we can have really real conversations like that with, has just been invaluable. These guys have both just sewn into what we're doing. Jay obviously got to come and be with us in March, and sewed really intentionally, and really just created some momentum and advanced what we were doing. One of the other things that we did that was strategic and fun was I got to work with one of their team, and Jay worked with one of our team, and that was really beneficial, because there's certain things that it's kind of hard to work with on your team, and it's a bit easier sometimes to have someone come in who doesn't really know them and be like, I see this and this and this, let's work through that. So that was really beautiful. But yeah, we definitely wouldn't be in the place that we're in were it not for the Urenas. Like, they have saved us time and time again. Yeah.
Good summary.
Thank you.
I love that. It's so, yeah, it just like you guys were saying, you have to have peers on your level, and you can walk into a group with the intention of not being a leader over these people, but if you're in some kind of leadership capacity in their life, you're always going to be in that, you know, leadership position in their life, no matter what the setting looks like. And so having people that understand and know that when you say you want to strangle somebody, you're just like, oh yes, I know your heart.
What'd
Yeah.
you say?
I said, oh yeah, I was there last Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Who know where you're at and know what you're going through is very important. Do you guys have any last piece of advice, Holy Spirit wisdom for school leaders before we finish this up and wrap it up?
It's worth it. It is the most difficult thing that I have ever done. I have never cried as much as I have this year. Like, and we've been through some stuff. It's not like we've had an easy go of things, but like, this has cost everything. It has cost everything, but it has 100% been worth it. Seeing their lives transform, seeing students step into freedom, seeing them develop their own level of intimacy with the Lord and just grow in maturity, it's worth it. It's real hard some days, and if you don't have community that can help you through that, you won't survive it, but it is worth it.
Yes, all true. I think 150%. I think too, if you're not a praying person yet, pray. Start praying. Start praying now. Start praying a lot. Start praying all the time. And even if you haven't started your school yet, start praying for your students.
Yeah.
Like, how you pray for them is the authority that you're actually going to have in their life. So make sure that you are prayed up. Make sure your team is prayed up. Start praying for your students.
Yeah.
Like, now. And just remember, it's not about you. Like we talked about earlier, there's the reality one that, yeah, it's not about you, and it's about Jesus, and it's about building something for the church. But remember, it's also about the students. And learn. If you don't do this already, learn to celebrate people really well.
Yeah.
Like even the little things, learn to celebrate really well, because that joy and that celebration is going to run off. And there's something catalytic, I think, about celebration when you can learn to celebrate people's victories. That's just going to propel you. It's going to propel your team. It's going to propel your students. Because it doesn't matter if at the end of your school year they become sanctified or whatever. What matters is that their lives are being changed. And if there's one little bit of change that happens after 9 months, that's amazing. Celebrate that.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, go,
Oh,
Erin.
no, go for it. Yeah, keep going.
Erin, go.
Okay. I think one of the biggest things that I've realized in this whole process is the importance of creating a safe place. You know, you don't just start up a school or a church or a ministry or whatever, and then you walk in the room and I'm the leader and this is how we do things here and blah, blah, blah. No, you do it in a way that you still come from a low place and you're willing to be vulnerable. So that was something that our first year, last year with the students, you know, they all came in and they all kind of had guards up, and in the East Coast, people don't do vulnerability well at all because it's very like persona, how you see me.
We do fake vulnerability.
Yeah,
really well. If it makes us look holy, then we're good with it.
Oh yeah, but not the real stuff, you know. So the fact that we came into this school and we were really vulnerable with their process, the fact that we walked through stuff through the school year and this school year too, like where you know, we walked through hard stuff, whether it was personally, whether it was as a family, whether it was as a community. There was stuff that was going on that was really, really hard. And so we were just really, really real. Or, you know, we would be in the middle of teaching on, let's say, emotional health, but we're actually giving real life examples of, this is where I learned this in my life. This is a real life example, you know? So you want to create a safe space that shows people that they can trust you, that they're safe to let their guard down, that they're safe to be vulnerable, and they're not going to get stepped on or used or whatever, you know, because you're introducing them to that safe place.
Yeah. And they're safe outside of school. Like the safety doesn't stop with you, like when school's out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did a Welsh revival night at school the other day when it was close to the October 31st because it was the anniversary. And in reading that, I realized that because we're coming to the end of the school year and I was trying to process, like saying to God, we need to start processing what the heck happened this year because I don't know what happened. And I realized that it's all about love. Like we've been looking for people to get healed of specific things. We've been looking for people to have breakthrough in really specific areas. We've been praying for the church to experience things, and we have hopes and expectations for what God's going to do. But really, all He cares about is loving people, literally. And so I guess that's what I would say. This is about loving people.
Yeah.
And this year, through loving people no matter what the cost has been, I've really grown in my understanding of what it costs God to love us every day. Because even when we don't see Him, He shows up. Even when we throw things in His face, He still shows up. He's vulnerable every single day of our lives. He leads us from a deep place in His heart, and He holds nothing back from us, even though we can be sometimes really cruel to Him. And I just think through this year, I've experienced what the cost is in a really small way of what it looks like to show up wholeheartedly and vulnerably for people who think that for a couple of weeks of the year, they think that I'm doing a bad job. And that's really, really hard. That's very hard. But those people are worth it because God says they're worth it and they're my family. So I think just answer the call, answer the call to courage to love people no matter what and no matter what it costs you. And I'm not talking about not having boundaries. I'm not talking about giving your food away instead of feeding your wife because I get hungry. Like John G. Lake. Please don't do that. And I'm talking about loving people and being committed to loving them no matter how spiky they are and what they throw at you and how they try to sever relationship and offense, because it's worth it, and that's actually what we're called to do. So can I pray?
Yes, please. That's a perfect way to end it. Pray. That's amazing. I love that. Do it.
So I just release everything that I have to release as an impartation of a powerful understanding and commitment to love. To love like the heart of the Father, to come into alignment with God, and to release love in a father-like way, in a mother-like way, in an intergenerational way, that we would choose to sacrifice short-term things and personal pleasures for a long-term goal and for deep connection that will roll through our communities and families. And Father, I just ask that you bless everyone that's here, everyone that's watching, with a love that is deep as the ocean, a never-ending love, God, so vast like the sea, that people will just feel the love that you have for them that we carry, and that they will be drawn into your presence, that we won't need multi-million-dollar campaigns or worship nights or conferences, that we will just need to be a humble person loving someone, and that is enough. God, we thank you that you have made us enough, that the capacity we have right now to love is enough, and yet you are pouring out more capacity, you're pouring out more joy and more love and more peace. We thank you that you love us with an everlasting love, and I just release anything that I can to everyone here for them to experience your love at a new level and to be able to love the people that are standing right in front of them.
Whew. Amen. Amen.
I throw one more out there that I'm a little surprised that Aaron and Katie didn't.
Yeah, throw it out.
Just be a person. When you get out of here, just be a human being.
That's
Okay.
so real. that is
Normal.
very, very real. Well, guys, thank you so much for giving us your time and all of your wisdom. I know that all of the school leaders watching this afterwards will just really greatly benefit from it. And thank you for what you guys are doing in New York and in Australia, and just the way that you are touching and changing lives. We really, really appreciate it. So bless you guys and have a great, great day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, you're amazing. Thank you so much. That was so good. Whew.
That was
Man.
fun.
That was fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
We made it seem so succinct and wonderful, didn't we?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said we made it. The way that we talked about it was so succinct and wonderful. In reality, everything inside of me is like, it's hard. Don't be afraid, but be a little bit afraid.
Don't do it.
Might want to go back.
Run.
Just go back to God and make sure He wants you to do
No,
it.
Just go to upper room and worship for the next few years. Just run.
It was really good. I think it'll be very helpful for some first timers for sure. I'm probably gonna be. I don't know if have you guys ever heard of Keith Major? He's down in LA.
Yeah.
Aaron has? Yeah. He runs a Catholic school of supernatural ministry.
Yes.
Yeah.
No way! I want to go.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, when Shane and I took the track students down to Pasadena, we went to SoCal SSM, and then we also went to Keith's school. That guy he's something else, man.
Oh, I believe it.
Is he like a priest or is he just a?
No. So he started out in the Vineyard Church, and he was working for IHOP.
James in love.
He was
Jay.
working for IHOP, and he went to like the Ukraine and Poland and was like a missionary there for IHOP and like that whole stream. And then he started getting into contemplative prayer, and because of that, he converted to Catholicism. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
I want to meet him so bad.
I think you would love him. He's amazing. Yeah, so I think I'm going to interview him and then interview probably the guys over in Texas, Sally Curtis. She's been running her school for 10 years now. And then I was actually just thinking of Charlie and Judy Owens. They run the school in a Huntsville prison. So
Yes, they came to a Converge, right?
yeah.
They were incredible.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It sounds like Matt King's school in
Yeah.
Norway is going well. We just spent time with two of his
Yeah.
leaders.
They just preached at our school. You should. Their journey's really cool.
I forgot about Matt King and his school.
Did you know Maria, Jay? Did you ever meet Maria?
Was she Australian?
Yeah.
Yeah. This Jazz's friend.
Oh yeah, Maria.
Yeah.
Fellas.
Yeah, her and her husband in Berkeley.